new applicants. Now, if you're searching for a specific position, you would go back to that main screen on USA Jobs, select Advanced Search, and then you're going to come up to the search screen. And on this screen, there's a lot of information. You can put in as much as you want or as little as you want. If you know a keyword search that you want, are looking for a specific position, you can select. On this example, it says soil conservationist. If you're looking for a specific salary, you can put your salary range in there, a pay grade. If you know the series number, you can search by that, and that ties with the position classification standards. Or you can search just by location and agency. So you could put in any state. This one is South Dakota. And then you can specify in a state which city that you're looking for, or you can select the whole state. Then you can choose an agency, and all the agencies are listed, and then there's a sub-agency. So NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Service, is listed under Department of Agriculture. And then you can also select an occupational series. And then if you are a disabled person or a veteran, that will be listed under applicant eligibility as far as what you are. And it says there, are you a current or federal employee? And then it says, are you a federal, a veteran eligible for veterans preference, or a person with non-competitive appointment eligibility? And those would include our Schedule A or disabled individuals. Then you can also select the type of work you're looking for, whether it be permanent, temporary, full-time, part-time. And then you can also pull up, there's a screen there that shows you can select all jobs or jobs that were just posted as of yesterday, in the last 3 days, etc., etc. So when you put in your search, it's going to bring up the screen that shows you the positions that are available for the search that you put in. And on the one that we have here, it's going to bring up soil conservationist, and it will list all the information that is available for that job. Then what we recommend to people is that they print preview that position so that they can read through the whole application. It tells you what you need to specifically do to apply for a position, what you need to submit as far as supporting documentation. There's a contact number on there, so if anyone has questions, they can call that person that's listed as a contact on there. Make sure that when you are submitting supporting documents, that the job announcement number is on those supporting documents. Any questions on the process of searching for a job? Okay. The next part is we're just going to go through a few things regarding promotion potential. When it says on a job announcement that there is promotion potential, that means that if a position is advertised, for example, at a GS7 level with promotion potential to the GS9, that individual would be eligible to move to the GS9 without having to reapply. Their supervisor would recommend them after a 52-week waiting period of fully successful performance. They could automatically be promoted to that next level. There's a screen that has pay grades on it. Those are our current pay grades, which won't change again this January because we won't be getting a cost of living raise. So those pay grades will be the same. They are based on 2,087 hours a year. There is also a pay scale that goes by an hourly rate on the Office of Personnel Management website too. So if you want to look at the hourly rate, otherwise you can just divide that salary by 2087 and you'll come up with an hourly rate. Some of the positions that we have a positive education requirement, and those will be listed on the vacancy announcement. And those respond back to the qualification standards put out by OPM. So make sure when you're helping someone or if someone's asking a question about positive education that they read through that, what they need to have for that. Applications are only are not allowed to be mailed or emailed. They can only be completed online or faxed. An application package would consist of a resume, and we'll get into resume in a little bit. Copies of transcripts, if there is positive education, transcripts are required or the application won't be considered. There is an online questionnaire for every position that must be completed. If they are a veteran, they need to send a copy of their DD-215. If they are a current or prior federal employee, they would need to provide an SF-50, which is a personnel action, and they would also need to include a performance summary rating of not more than 15 months old showing a fully successful rating. Copies of licenses and or certificates may also be required for some positions, so that would be in the vacancy announcement whether those would be required.
Sherry?
Yep.
So like if I have a copy of my transcript, when I apply online, is there a place where I can scan in my transcript so when it's emailed to there, it all stays together?
Yes.
There is a place I can do
You
that?
can upload documents.
Okay.
Yep. So if you scan them in, then you can pull them in from your browser to upload those.
So then I could do it completely online?
You can do it all online.
Okay.
Yep.
Just a question with that. I'm helping someone and we uploaded the transcripts into USA Jobs, but you were saying that we need to have the job announcement number on them. And how do we do that? Because when we scan it in, it's a PDF. Do we have to scan in another document each time with the job number?
I guess if you're uploading them, it's not such an issue, but if you're faxing them, every fax goes to Macon, Georgia. So they need to determine when it comes into their fax which vacancy it goes with. So when you're uploading it, it's not quite such an issue. So don't worry about it if you are uploading the supporting documents, but if you are faxing them, make sure that it is on there.
And your fax cover sheet will also have that that vacancy identification number on it.
Yeah, you pull up a fax cover sheet. You'll pull up a fax cover sheet and you'll fax all your documents with that fax cover sheet. Okay. If you're faxing.
Does that make
This
sense?
is Mary. Excuse me. This is Mary in Mobridge. Is it recommended that you put the job number and your name and stuff, put that across the top of the document before you scan it, or and then send it in so that every single document has that on there? Would that make it easier?
That you could do that, yeah. I know sometimes
Okay.
it's easier just if you have your transcript in there just to upload it every time and not have to do that every time. So it's more of an issue if you're faxing, because all the documents go to Georgia and they don't specifically come directly to us.
An issue.
Okay.
Okay. In order to do a resume, you can either do your own resume or you can do a resume through USA Jobs. And if you're doing it right through USA Jobs, it'll walk you right through the process of the areas that you need to put in there. But if you're doing one just on your own, the things that you should have in there are the vacancy announcement number. You should put your personal information, your education. It's nice if you put on there, if you have education, that you put quarter or semester hours. And then for your work experience, be very specific as far as your duties, and show start and end dates and whether it was full-time and part-time, and if part-time, the hours that were worked, and any other qualifications that you might have that are related to that job. As far as expounding on your work experience, we don't want to see just a one-page resume. We really want to see that in detail. Each job opportunity announcement has an online questionnaire that goes with that position that's open. And when you answer those questions, we compare them to what's in your resume. So that must be reflected in your resume, what you're stating in your online questionnaire. So we do weight them. So you can put in your resume right now and have it in there. You can have several different resumes in there, and they will stay in USA Jobs. And so we encourage people to do that ahead of time instead of waiting till the last minute to get their resume done, so they can just make changes as needed, or so it's already there. There are some on USA Jobs, the website, also under references. There are some help with applying for a federal job, and there's tips on resume and KSAs, or knowledge, skills, and abilities. Those are the things that we rate the job on. So each job has what we call knowledge, skills, and abilities, and those are reflected in the questionnaire. So that would be what you would want to look at on the job vacancy announcement, is what knowledge, skills, and abilities are required for that position. We don't have any more. It used to be we would have you would have to write up an essay type thing for each knowledge, skill, and ability, and now we just do it all via questionnaire. So there's no more writing like that. You just answer the questions online. There's some sample questions in your packet. We just, tell people just respond which one best describes your experience or your education. And tell them to be please honest, with their answers. Then before you're appointed, we verify that you are a U.S. citizen. We complete a background investigation. We will require official transcripts if you are selected for the position. Males are required to be registered with the Selective Service. Some positions may have a mobility agreement that needs to be signed, and then if there's any job-related license or certificates that are needed, we would require those before starting your employment with the federal government. Are there any other questions?
This is Jennifer in Yankton. On the resume, if you're uploading it again, do you have to have the specific job announcement number and everything, or can you have a resume that you upload for, let's say, a teaching position, and then just use that constantly for applying for teaching positions?
You can use the same one. If you're using the resume through USA Jobs, you will apply, and it'll have the specific job announcement right on there when it comes to us. But if you're uploading, it's going to come to us via online, so we will have that.
Okay, thanks.
I have one quick question. I was wondering, is there a way to apply for federal jobs other than through USA Jobs, other than through electronic application?
You can do it online or you can fax everything. So you could print out the questionnaire and everything and fax it, but those are the only two ways.
Okay.
So you can print out the questionnaire and fax that too.
Thank you.
Sherry, when we had visited previously, you had talked about the resumes aren't going to be a typical 2-page resume.
Right.
So what do you see typically for resumes? that
Well,
you get?
typically we see from 1 page to 15, 20 pages. We really like to see a lot of information in there, and I know that goes against everything that everybody's ever been told to do a 1-page resume, but we really want to see what specific duties that you did, and those must relate to the questionnaire, the answers that they're answering in the questionnaire. So we review the questionnaire and then look back and forth at the resume to the questionnaire. So, and we will change scores if it's not listed in the resume that they have completed that, but they answer that they are an expert in that area. So.
And also, wasn't there something about like the college class? Like, I can't remember what it was. It's so long ago, but like the experience, and then you could go up or down a grade level depending on like how many credits you have or something. Do you?
I think that
Superior academic achievement.
is that one?
If you are a college graduate and the requirements for the position are at the GS5 level, that's going to get you at a GS5 level. If you have superior academic achievement, and that's, I believe, 3.2 and above, that's going to get you at the GS7 level automatically if you meet the other qualifications for that position. So those are some of the keys. And we take a look at that when we review the transcripts as well. Excuse me.
Make sure the transcripts are legible too, because we see, and we don't mind if they're a copy, but if we can't read them, then that's going to kick it out too, because a lot of our positions have positive education requirements, so we really need to review those transcripts. So.
If you're assisting someone in the application process and you have a question, don't be afraid to give Sherry or I a call, or any other agency that you are applying for. I mean, that's what the HR specialists are there for, to answer your questions, to help your applicants in that process. So don't be afraid to pick up that phone and say, hey, what does this mean? What do I need here?
This is Janet and Pierre. You indicated that you keep the resume on file. How long do you keep that resume on file, and how often should someone update that if they're applying for various federal positions?
We do keep the application, well, it's always online when we pull up the applications, but for each position, you need to submit a new resume. But you can keep those in the system. So if someone's applying for a job, they can just upload that every time they need to use that. Just because we have one on file, they still have to submit a new resume for that job they're applying for. Does that make sense?
I'm a little confused on what you mean it's in the system. What does that mean when you say it's in the system?
You
How
can
do people
put a
find
resume. You go into USA Jobs, and
Okay.
if you have a job you're applying for, or if you don't have a specific job right now that you're applying for, you can go through
Set up an account.
set up an account, and it'll let you put, I think, up to 3 resumes in there. So you can start working on that now, or have your applicants start working on that now, even though there may not be a position open for them. And then when they apply online, then they would go through their account, and it would pull that resume in.
Okay, so what you're saying is everyone has their own account, and then they actively keep that account updated.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. You
Okay.
don't have to have an account, because you can upload just a resume, not one that's not in USA Jobs. But it's easier if they have an account set up.
Okay.
And that
Thank you.
that USA Jobs resume is also going to provide us with a lot of the information that we need, such as the beginning date, ending date, whether it's full-time, part-time, what the specific duties are, and some of the keywords that we look at are action words, independently, those types of things, because those tell us a little bit about the experience level of that individual. Does that help you?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, there's a question in Sioux Falls. Could you tell us about your scoring system and what level of which then, how high do they score before you continue it on to the next hiring authorities?
When we set up the vacancy job announcement in USA, staffing is our system that interfaces with USA Jobs. When we set the job announcement up, we set up an assessment, which is the online questionnaire, and that has point values for certain questions. And then when an applicant applies and they answer those questions, they're gonna get a score. 70 is considered qualified. So if they get a 70, they're considered qualified. If not, the system is automatically gonna kick them out saying they're not qualified. Or there may be specific questions such as education. If you must have education, and it's required, if they check, no, I don't have education, that is also going to make them ineligible because that position requires education. So once they get a score, then when we pull up all the applications, we're going to review the scores and so if it's best qualified, we have best qualified, qualified, and well qualified. So we started the best qualified. Those are referred to the selecting official, and in certain instances, veterans preference plays into that because veterans are placed on the top of the list. A disabled person is on a separate list, so they are, if they are found qualified, they are referred on to the selecting official also without having to compete. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. So there's really only a certain amount, though, that likely is, I mean, if it's one opening, you're going to give the top 10 or a given number based on what the hiring authority is looking for. Is that correct? In other words, you could score maybe in the best qualified, but let's say a veteran would probably have a better chance, would likely be interviewed, and if there is a larger number of that, they might not even get to some of the other people that might be best qualified. Is that kind of what you were saying as well? Okay.
Yes. And on the notice that they get, we will say if there is a veteran, it will say that that person was qualified, but due to veterans' preference, they weren't referred to the selecting official, but they may be, if that veteran would say they already got a position and didn't want to come or couldn't fill that position, then we could go lower on the scale. So.
It's a very complicated process, as most federal hiring processes are, and there's so many different rules and regulations. And what Sherry's primarily talking about are the non-status or delegated examining unit. We have other rules that apply to the merit promotion, which under delegated examining, we call that the category rating system. Used to be only 3 people went forward to the selecting official. Now we can have anybody who's in the best qualified category go forward. And usually if there's a veteran, then they have to hire that veteran first, unless we get OPM permission to not hire that veteran and hire someone else. So more than likely though, if they want to hire off of that certificate, they have to hire that veteran. And then under merit promotion, the top 10 people go to the selecting official. One of the things though in South Dakota is very few times do we have up to 10 people who are current status employees that apply for a position because of our location. Any other questions?
I just have one more. I know you said for NRCS, sorry, that this doesn't typically apply to you, but in other agencies, the first so many applicants, no matter what, if they're qualified or not, and then it's a cutoff?
Yeah, some agencies, I know rural development has, when they receive 50 applications, they cut off, so the application automatically closes. We don't specify a number, so we take applications however many we get, but some agencies do. So that's why it's helpful for applicants to get their resume on USA Jobs ahead of time so that they are prepared if a job opening does, or if a job does open, that they can apply right away, because sometimes there is a limit on the number of applicants that can apply. So.
This is Janet and Pierre. If there is a limited number of applications they'll take for a specific job, do they announce that on the job so people know, so they're not waiting to hold, to the last minute to submit an application?
I don't know. I haven't really looked at one, I guess.
I don't think they do.
We don't do that. So.
Yeah, so I don't know. But yeah, we suggest do not wait till the last minute, the last day it's open to apply. So
Okay,
I guess
thank
you would
you.
have to, yeah.
you could call that person, who's listed on there and ask them. But I don't know if it says it on the announcement or not.
So you can call the hiring official, and it's okay to do that on any of the jobs?
There is a contact on the job announcement, yes, and you can call that person.
Okay. So would that be an appropriate question to ask, is if there is a limited amount of resumes they are taking?
Certainly.
You can ask that.
Any other questions?
Aberdeen has a question. During this process that you go through, eventually do you get to a face-to-face interview? And if so, are the expenses paid for them to travel for the interview?
It depends. We usually aren't the people who are doing the interviews. We have selecting officials in our agency that are, we have someone in Rapid City that is on the west part of the state. We have someone in Pierre, which is kind of central, and then Brookings, which is east. And those people can decide if they want to interview or not. So it's kind of up to the selecting official. If there is an interview, no, those expenses are incurred by the individual.
And most of them are telephone interviews. With the new hiring process, the USA Jobs, USA Staffing, we have encouraged them strongly to interview because we feel that's a good avenue for them to get to understand the applicants better, get to know them better. But again, it is up to the selecting official how they want to handle that. Any other questions? If not, we'll move on to the Schedule A hiring authority. And I am Vicki Blindauer. I'm the HR manager for Natural Resource Conservation Services. Sherry and I work together. And she visited with you about the actual hiring process itself and the job announcement. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Schedule A hiring authority. And that authority is a targeted disabilities authority that the federal government, as a matter of policy, has identified for special emphasis. And I'm on page 3 of the handouts. And what are the targeted disabilities? If you take a look at those, they've identified deafness, blindness, missing extremities, partial and complete paralysis, convulsive disorders, mental retardation, mental illness, and distortion of the limb or spine as the specific disabilities that they are targeting. Now, that doesn't mean that that's all of them, but those are the ones that they have identified as targeted disabilities. So to go to the next slide, we want to find out what is Schedule A. Well, it is an accepted service appointment. We have various appointments within the federal government, and Schedule A is an accepted service appointment, and it's appointment for persons with disabilities, and it's a can be a career conditional appointment. The rules and regulations guiding a Schedule A appointment are in the 5 CFR, or Code of Federal Regulations, and I've indicated the part there, 213.3102. So if you have an interest in looking at the Code of Federal Regulations, it's right here. There, it also specifies in that Code of Regulations that a Schedule A hiring authority can in fact be a non-competitive appointment. Now, what Sherry talked to you about a little bit was a competitive process where the applicants normally compete for the position. And if you'll look on most merit promotion announcements, which are for the status candidates or current or former federal employees, that's where a Schedule A appointment can also apply for a position. There's an indication on the first or second question, Schedule A hiring authority, and also indicates on there what specifics the individual has to have in order to apply under that particular application. And that's how we normally get, at least in South Dakota NRCS, how we normally get our applicants is through the competitive process. But they can also come on board non-competitively, meaning they don't need, the position itself does not need to be advertised, and other agencies use different avenues, and that might be an avenue that they use. They don't need to wait for the closing date if the person is qualified and could fill that position. They do not have to have a formal job announcement to announce a position. One of the requirements is that the individual does have to have that disability documentation, and we're going to talk about that a little bit in the future. And as I said, the individual can walk in the door and the agency can accept applications at any time. And some agencies do that on an ongoing basis. Now, what we've seen, as I said before, is most of our people apply through our announcements online and are considered non-competitive that way. So that is another way. Who can write a Schedule A letter? The Schedule A letter can be written by a licensed medical professional, and I'm now on the next page. And that person has to be certified by the state, the District of Columbia, or a territory of the United States. And each agency has the right to decide what documentation they will accept. Meaning, will they accept something from a licensed audiologist or a clinical social worker? Those are the things that you'll have to determine when you're working with the specific agencies what type of documentation they will or will not accept. And also a licensed vocational rehab specialist, they can write Schedule A letters based on the Department of Rehab Services definition of a fully qualified individual. Excuse me. Also, any federal or state agency that provides Social Security disability benefits can also write a Schedule A letter. Basically, under the Schedule A appointment authorities, it was streamlined back in the late 1990s. And actually, I'm trying to think so you guys kind of know where I'm at. I'm on page 4, 5, 6. I'm on page 7. If you're, and it says new regulations combined Schedule A is the first line of the slide. Anyway, back in the late 1990s, the Schedule A appointing authorities were combined and streamlined. Basically, at that time, they talked about the definition of the distinction between proof of disability and job readiness, and what can happen if a person does not have certification of job readiness. So in other words, we could employ someone on a temporary basis until we receive job readiness approval. Going to the next page, we're talking about appointment options for hiring individuals under the Schedule A hiring authority, the temporary appointment. Excuse me. Basically, we would hire someone as a temporary appointee in lieu of a job readiness certification. In a couple ways that can happen. The individual could work temporarily for us. We could observe them on the job. But what most happens is that we provide a position description to their medical provider, and that medical provider determines whether or not that person is job ready or provides a job readiness certification. There are also time-limited appointments, and you would have to provide the disability documentation and job readiness certification. And that, is sometimes a summer position, if you will. It's for a specific period of time to do a specific duty. And so that is another way that we can use Schedule A hiring. That's not the only way, but that's one of the avenues that we can use. And then if we have the job readiness and the disability Schedule A application letter, we can hire them on a permanent appointment. Initially, what they would do is serve as an accepted service appointment for up to 2 years, or for 2 years, and then they could be converted to a permanent career conditional or career tenured appointment with the government. Going to the next slide, what is job readiness? It's basically the ability to perform the duties of the work. And one of the things that you need to keep in mind when Sherry was talking about the competitive side, what we have to take a look at as well is the individual qualified for that position? And lots of times in NRCS specifically, we have positive education requirements. They have to have so many credits in soils, so many credits in plants, so many credits in crops, those types of things. So that's one of the first things we have to take a look at in our agency, and maybe in another agency it might be whether or not they're an RN or if they're licensed in the state, those types of things. Those are some of the qualifications that we have to take a look at. In addition, we also have to take a look at do they have enough specialized experience to work at this GS9 level or GS11 level. And lots of times that comes into play in the announcement itself. It tells you what it takes what the specialized experience requirements are for that position. So when we say the federal hiring manager determines if the applicant is qualified, that's what we're doing. We're taking a look at their resume, taking a look at the positive education requirements and their specialized experience to see are they qualified for that job. And then if they've applied for a position, we take a look, are they among the best qualified for that position? So, and if they are, then they go forward to the selecting official if they've applied for a specific announcement and indicated that they are a Schedule A eligible hiring authority person. Excuse me. So what does likely to succeed mean? It simply states that the person is ready for employment. And it does not put any liability on the medical provider who provided that information when they indicated that the person was job ready or likely to succeed. Going to the next page, what are job readiness restrictions? If there's not an accommodation for the disability and when a change in the work environment is requested, that needs to be included in the Schedule A announcement. And we're going to, I think we provided some handouts onto what some Schedule A letters are, and we'll go over those in a little bit. And then if you choose not to include certification and job readiness, we as federal hiring managers can put that person on a temporary hiring appointment until we get the job readiness certification or until they prove that they're ready for employment. Do you guys have the sample Schedule A letter and then Schedule A letter with restrictions? Did Carla provide you those? If you could bring those out, there's a couple of them that are just kind of just samples that you can take a look at. And that's kind of the information that needs to be included on a Schedule A hiring authority letter. Basically, that this person is documented as a disability in accordance with 5 CFR, and that that person has certification of job readiness, and then maybe what in an office setting, a food service or warehouse, and likely to succeed in performing those duties. If you take a look at the next one, it's a Schedule A letter with restriction. This happens to be for a person who has seizures. And so they also have a documented disability. They have indicated that they have certification of job readiness and are likely to succeed as long as they're not required to operate equipment or climb ladders. So that's the restriction put on that particular person because of their seizures. So. Also, just to refer you back, and you don't have this slide, but if you go back to Sherry's presentation, that very first part of it where it talks about the resources, there is a resource section on persons or individuals with disabilities that you could refer to if you're trying to figure out what a sample letter would be like, those types of things. So basically, what we're trying to do here is try to educate you, work with you to help you in the process of assisting your applicants in working for the federal government, not only for our agency, but maybe for another agencies that do hire Schedule A appointments. So basically, if you have individuals or positions that might work with us or work with another federal agency, contact those federal agencies within South Dakota or the surrounding states if you're working with surrounding states, and we will certainly try and work with you to get your Schedule A or persons with disabilities hired. And the next to last page, of course, are some resources that you as recruitments in your processes of getting people employed can review as far as this information is concerned. So any questions? And you're certainly, at the last page is my contact information, and Sherry's also a contact for us. If you want to contact us at any time with any questions or that type of thing, please do so. Any questions? I know I went through that fast, but.
Hi, Vicki. This is Janet and Pierre. I have one on the temporary appointment. How long can a person be in temporary appointment status?
That depends, on how long it might take to determine if that person is job ready, or how long it takes to have the medical provider obtaining information. So there's no specific time limit on a temporary appointment. We would hope it wouldn't be more than 6 months, but again, the only time there is a time limit is if it's a not to exceed or for a specific time limit appointment. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You will find with us, I don't know if it's the way with you, but not everything's black and white. It depends upon what you're dealing with and what the specifics are pertaining to that situation. Any other questions? If not, we thank you very much for allowing us to make this presentation to you, and certainly would hope that if you have questions, you contact us or any other federal agency hiring managers, and they can assist you in the process.
And we still are having technical difficulties. I never did get it to work, so I don't know.
Thank you, ladies. As they both said, there is contact information on the bottom of each one of their PowerPoints if you need to contact either one of these ladies on it for any further information. Before they close, is any last chance for questions? Anybody out there with any further questions?
Has this
It
helped
doesn't look
you?
like there is.
Has this helped you to help you understand the federal hiring process any better, or is there something we could change, or it might have been more helpful had we had the PowerPoint? But
Well, I think it was helpful that we sent the PowerPoints out in advance. Everyone was able to follow along, and I personally didn't have any problems following along with where you were at in your PowerPoint. I will admit, I do think it's a confusing process. It's not something that you can just apply for one day and hopefully have it submitted the next day. I think everyone needs to do their research and be ready to apply for these federal jobs when they open up. So I don't know. That's one thing I would recommend to anyone that's looking at hoping to get a federal job, to do their research and be ready when the positions open up so that they know how to apply and get them submitted in case there is a limit on the number of resumes they have. Submit them in a timely manner, have the resumes ready and so forth. Do you guys have any further input to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I would recommend all VR counselors go out onto the USA Jobs website and become very familiar with it. Create your own account if you think that would be helpful, and become familiar so that when that consumer comes in who's interested in those federal jobs, you know how to get around there and help that consumer to the best of your ability.
great. We're certainly glad you're doing that, and we know it's a complicated process. That's why we've started to begin to not only educate our own employees, but anyone who asks us to speak, to say, hey, you really need to be prepared and need a long resume, a specific resume for maybe that particular position, those types of things, because we know it's a difficult process. So, and we're mandated that these are the processes we need to use. So that's why we're trying to help educate you.
It's important for us. It's important for us to know the difference between, a lot of the VR counselors are telling their consumers, keep your resume short. You only want 1, 2 at the most. But federal is asking for more, so it's very important for them to make that distinction and put everything in those resumes that the federal government is looking for.
What we're kind of comparing the resume to now, if any of you had ever applied for a federal position in the past, and I don't need to know if you did or not, but what we are now saying is that KSA is now your resume. Basically, those 2-page responses that you had to an individualized question is now becoming your resume. So that's why we're saying we don't care how long they are. I do know some agencies do specify not more than 10 pages. But keep that in mind. We don't care how long they are with NRCS in South Dakota. Other agencies might, but we don't.
I had a
That's some
question
good
regarding
information.
I had a
Go ahead,
question regarding the schedule. Sorry. Okay, so if somebody wants to apply for a certain position, is it really, and it's open, it's been listed on USA Jobs, is it beneficial for them at that time to even do a Schedule A, or not necessarily?
Well, they're different. If they're Schedule A, they're also put forward to the selecting of the official on a non-competitive certificate.
Okay.
Otherwise, they would be on the competitive side. So
it can help them even if it's an open.
And they can apply
position.
both. Yeah. They could certainly apply both under merit promotion as a Schedule A, and then apply under DEU if they're not a current federal employee or a non-status, is what you call it. It's open to U.S. citizens. They can apply under that one as well under DEU. So they can apply both ways.
What's DEU?
Delegated Examining Unit. It's where non-status people or veterans preference prevails, those types of things. They could certainly apply under both.
Okay, so it doesn't, it probably is beneficial to do a Schedule A for any position.
Yeah.
And can you upload that into your thing?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's a question on the questionnaire too.
It
The
is.
first question usually is, are you applying as
The disabled.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's under merit promotion, though. Merit promotion are those for current federal, former federal, and those with special hiring authorities. So if the person is a Schedule A individual and applying for under Schedule A, you'd want them to apply under the one that says merit promotion or for status candidates. Does that help you? I know
Usually there's 2 announcements for each.
Okay, yeah.
There's a merit promotion and then there's one that says DEU,
To everybody.
non-status.
Okay. And so they
They
would,
can apply to both.
oh, they can apply, and under the one that's a merit, they would put the Schedule
Schedule
A.
A.
And under the other one,
They're
they
special
want.
hiring authority, yes.
Oh,
Yes.
does that help really to do both?
you can, yes.
Did you guys get that?
No, we didn't. Can you guys review that again? And then is that, Carmen, is that what you were talking about with the non-competitive? Because I might not be looking in the right area on USA Jobs then.
Well, I think they were saying that, like, if you go to USA Jobs, there'll be 2 job listings. One says like merit promotion, and the other one will say
DEU or non-status, and that's open to all U.S. citizens. So anyone can apply under the DEU announcement. Under the merit promotion, you have to either be a current federal employee, a former federal employee, or a special hiring authority, which Schedule A falls under that. So they can apply under both merit promotion and DEU.
even though they're not a former employee.
Right, because they're under a special hiring. Like if you're a veteran, you can also apply under merit promotion. Yep.
And when you're searching for your position, if you look on page 6 of your handouts, the top one, there's a section that says applicant eligibility. There's a section there that says, are a person with non-competitive appointment eligibility, yes or no? So you would put yes there. Or if you're a current or former federal employee, that's the place you need to put yes, and that's going to get you both the merit promotion and the DEU announcements for that position. So if you want to, you may have somebody who's a former federal employee, or you may have somebody who has a high, appointment eligibility under Schedule A. Then you would select yes under there, and that's going to get you both the merit promotion applicants and the DEU applicants or non-status announcements for your applicants.
Did that make sense? No?
See, this is where we're talking to right there.
Okay.
So, yeah, on page 6, the top one there, it's going to tell you that's where you, instead of pushing no, which is an automatic default, select yes when you're, and that'll provide you both the merit promotion and the DEU announcement or the non-status announcement for that particular position, if they've announced it both ways. Okay?
But under the merit promotion, they would have to have the Schedule A documentation, supporting documentation.
Correct.
So, the letter.
I know sometimes it says only for current employees. It's like a promotion. So that wouldn't apply to a person just off the street, even if they have a Schedule A?
I don't know. We'd have to take a look at that.
Yeah.
Don't know the answer off the top of my
Okay.
head. So, would you like us to get back with you on that one?
Yeah,
Okay. Well, one of the key things is if it's for only agency employees only, then if they aren't a current agency employee, sometimes it's just for NRCS or USDA. If they aren't a current employee there, it would not apply.
Okay.
But let me, I will research it further on the Schedule A side of it, if they can still apply under that. So,
Okay.
okay. Any other questions? And again, pick up that phone. That's what we're here for.
And if you have any questions on that question I was asking, I get it, I think, so you can call me too. Where they're saying you can apply for both open positions.
Thank you, ladies. And also a reminder, everyone remember to fill in their sign-up sheet so that you can get credit for attending this training and get those all faxed to me. If no one has any other questions, I think we're going to let these ladies go. Thank you.
Thank you again.